everybody, and welcome to the Maurice Brown Comedy Show on bogradio.fm. We have a very special guest on our show this morning, tonight, whenever you may happen to be watching. This guy right here is a former field goal kicker from the NFL. He's also been in the United Football League, the Arena Football League. Former professional place kicker. He's kicked with the Arizona Rattlers of the Arena League in 2010. By the way, Kurt Warner of the Super Bowl champion LA Rams played in the Arena Football League as well. One of those teams, the Iowa Barnstormers, which Fabrizio, our upcoming guest, has also played for. He's also kicked with the San Francisco 49ers of the NFL, as well as different stints in the Arena Football League. Please welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen, Fabrizio Scaccia. What's up, Fabrizio? How are you, brother?
Oh, man, I'm out here in sunny Florida, just living the dream, man. Everything's good. How are you?
I am doing well. You've had some interesting stints there in professional football. I mentioned Kurt Warner, who played for the Iowa Barnstormers, who really tore that league up before he got called up to the St. Louis Rams at the time. And of course, that was after you had gotten after you got there well after he got called up. Maybe you missed him by like maybe 9 or 10 years, something like that.
Yeah, I was there in 2013. He was long gone by then, but they made sure to keep his name alive in there. He had banners and all kinds of stuff in the arena, in our locker room, and rightly so. I mean, he was great for the league, for that league, and then went to the NFL and tore it up there too, man. Heck of a player.
He did. He did. Matter of fact, he made 3 Super Bowl appearances, 2 with the Rams, and then 1 maybe 8-9 years later in his career with the Arizona Cardinals. But we want to talk about Fabrizio Scaccia, a field goal kicker that has gotten a lot of experience playing pro football. Tell us a little bit about your place kicking career and how you got started.
Well, I was all these trophies behind me. It's all soccer. So I started when I was 4 playing soccer, and by the time I was 15, I got offered a pro contract in soccer. So my whole life, I'm thinking, here I go. I'm going to be a soccer player. Everyone was writing on their papers in elementary school, I want to be a fireman. And I wrote soccer player. That's just what I wanted in life. And like I said, at 15, I got offered the pro contract in soccer. And I didn't take it. I stayed here in the States because I found a new love in football. And when I got to high school, I started kicking field goals in high school and did pretty well at that. I had a fork in the road. I had to choose soccer or football, and ultimately I chose football.
Now, place kicking, by the way, I mean, you're training my nephew, Caleb Lopez, right now, who's a freshman kicker and down in Port St. Lucie, Florida. He kicked at John Carroll High School as a freshman, and he's kicking like 40, 45 yards out as a 14-year-old. Just turned 15 the other day. But as a young man, I mean, pretty impressive stuff for a young guy kicking that distance. How would you rate that?
I tell his parents all the time, from the first time I ever seen him kick as a 9th grader, I've never seen somebody in 9th grade, a freshman in high school, kick that well. And another thing is he's already kicking off the ground. A lot of kids his age start off of a little tee, gives you a little bit of an advantage, and he's off the ground. He's great. I think we made one from 46 or 47 our last time out in the rain. I put pressure on him. I was yelling at him. I called a timeout. I gave him all the bells and whistles, and he came up and smoked it down the middle. He's great. He's a great kid. Like I told you, I spoke on the phone with him. He's a yes sir, no sir kind of kid, straight A's, very coachable. You can't ask for more than that. I feel like the sky's the limit for Caleb. Absolutely. Great kid.
Yeah, I'm really proud of him, and I'm glad that you are a part of his training process, because when you're kicking 45, 47 yards out at that age, you start thinking about what some of these kickers are doing out there right now. I mean, I looked at the college football playoff, and I looked at all of the kickers. I do some grading and scouting on my own for Caleb, and I graded out all of the kickers in the CFP. Let's see, Bert, and I'm in Texas right now. So at the University of Texas, you've got Bert. I think his name is Bert Auburn, who's averaging about 50 yards a kick. But on average, all of the kickers in the CFP are averaging about 52, 54 yards. And so when you think about where Caleb is as a freshman in high school, dude, that's pretty promising, isn't it?
It really is. To be honest, when I was in ninth grade, I squeaked in a 42-yarder, I think it was, and I was ecstatic, fell in love with the game with a 42-yarder. This kid, like I said, in the rain, made one from 46 off the ground, mind you. Now, you got to remember, when you're going off the ground, that's a whole different ball game, because when you're on a tee, it gives you that much. You can scoop under the ball a little bit, and it can get deceiving. You can make 50-yarders, but was it a true 50-yarder? He's off the ground. He's legit. His power's there. His height is there. And like I stress this to everybody, the brains are there. If you don't have the mindset for it, if you're not in the books and you're not a respectable young man where you're coachable, and I stress this to all the kids out there. Yes, sir. No, sir. That'll get you so far in life. And he checks all the boxes. Caleb checks all the boxes, and I'm very excited to be a part of his journey, because I know it's gonna go far, and I'll be there for him every step of the way.
When you think about, I can't wait until they call his name out at draft day, because we're all going to be sitting at the table there, man, in New York. But I'll tell you, dude, I think about, the life of a field goal kicker is pretty complicated, because you're talking about a guy oftentimes where the entire weight of the game falls on his shoulders.
Sure.
And sometimes it's not in the best conditions. It could be one of those muddy outdoor games. It could be icy. It could be snowy. It could be rainy. It could be a lot of different things. But that kick is going to come down to whether or not the game is won or lost. So let me ask you this: the life of what is the biggest challenge for place kickers, in your opinion, in the NFL?
The biggest challenge, I'd say, is what you just said. You're either the hero or the GOAT, right? There's 2 seconds left. All the guys on your team just scrapped for 4 quarters, and it comes down to your foot. And if you do miss it, you're the GOAT, and everyone's like, oh, this guy missed it. But how are you going to react to that? That's what I tried stressing that to my clients and Caleb. I actually told him this in our last session. He missed one. He pushed one right. I said, I want to see what your next kick is. Divorce your feelings on that last one, and let's move on to the next one. I think the biggest thing about that is, if you can just forget it ever happened and move to the next one and pipe 3 more in a row, it shows a lot about who you are. A lot of guys, when you're the GOAT for a few plays, they spiral. All of a sudden, they're missing another one. You miss another one, then you lose your job. So I would say just keeping your composure, and you gotta divorce your feelings quickly and go and move on to the next one, on to the next. That's how they say it.
When you think about kickers getting into these little divots mentally, like, I'm a Green Bay Packer fan, so I remember about maybe 7 years ago, 8 years ago, Mason Crosby, great kicker, but he had like 1 year where he had the yips. And I think
perfect point this season is Justin Tucker. He's probably the best kicker of all time, right?
And Justin Kicker is the greatest professional kicker of all time, and he has the record of 66 in an NFL game. Yes. And who would have figured a guy like Justin Tucker would get the yips? But this season, he's really off. And I'm glad that you mentioned Justin Tucker, because you set me up perfectly for the next question I wanted to pose to you, because invariably is going to happen, I think, to a lot of kickers at some point in their careers, and some they deal with it longer than others. But when that happens mentally, how do you get yourself out of that?
Ah, man, it's not easy. You know, you got all the guys. I've missed a game winner. I missed a 56-yarder in the freezing cold in Omaha. Ball felt like a rock off my foot. Hit it well, went wide right. But you know what? It's all about if you're respect. I was respected in the locker room. Everyone came up, hugged me. Don't worry about it. You get the next one. And sure enough, next game I made a few, and I was right back at it. But if you do have the yips, like Tucker has now, man, you always say on to the next one, but when your next one is a miss, and then you go on to the next one, and your next one is a miss as well, it's almost like he's hitting them well. He really is. He's hitting them well, and they're just scraping the uprights and missing by this much. I have no doubt he'll bounce back, but it's hard to come back from that. But once you do, you're fine. But it's the initial getting back from it after missing that many in a row in big time situations. He's a professional. He'll be back, but it's tough to watch. I played against him actually in my hat. I haven't worn this hat in so long. Was in Super Bowl in 2012. He was on the opposing side. Love Justin. He'll bounce back. I'm sure of it.
I think he will. I mean, the guy's been so good for so long. You just have to figure it's just one of those things. I think Justin he's actually been in the league for quite a while.
Yeah.
And I mentioned Mason Crosby, and maybe you can speak on this, but Mason Crosby was getting on down the road into his career when he had that one bad year. And I think 2 years after that, he was gone from Green Bay, which I think to this day they still regret letting him go. But that being said, you look at Justin Tucker. Again, he's getting on in his age there, and maybe that's affecting him. How much of a factor does age go into affecting a field goal kicker?
Well, if you look at Nick Folk with the where's Nick Folk now with Tennessee, and he's 41. I want to say you lose the leg. I will say you do lose the leg, but the accuracy doesn't really go anywhere. The leg strength does. And then, as you get older, mindset plays into it. You miss one, you miss two. All of a sudden, you're asking yourself, is age a factor? Am I getting too old? The leg's not there. Is the accuracy going too? So, like I always stress to all these guys is you got to be sharp upstairs, and as you do get older, I mean, you lose the leg, you're not as sharp, and I mean, you got to know when to walk away. But I mean, these guys, they're all professionals. Crosby was great. I used to love watching Crosby. He had the bad year, and it happens. And yeah, I think they do regret getting rid of Mason Crosby, to your point.
They do. It was really bad the way that he ended up leaving Green Bay because, like I said, he had that 1 year. It was, and I don't even want to say it was majorly bad. For Mason, it was bad because he's so money. I mean, even from 50 and beyond, he was just always money. And he got the yips a little bit that season. And then afterwards, he started to slowly come back and he started to become a really, consistent kicker. It was never the guy he was prior, but he was still better than most in the league.
Yeah, the season after, he kind of bounced around a little bit. He popped in and out of some teams. And then, at that point, it's mentally exhausting. I can account for that. When you bounce around like that from team to team and you got a family and you're getting older, you're like, all right, I'm done. I think that's what happened with Mason.
As I talk about Mason, let me ask you about a guy named Anders Carlson who came in probably 2 years ago. Matter of fact, he kicked for the Packers last year. Kid's got a tremendous leg.
Yeah,
he's
had a rough rookie season. That's all it was.
He was just not accurate. Heck, if you asked him to kick a 42-yarder, he's going to curl it left or right. But if you ask him to kick from 53, he's dead center.
Yeah.
And I mean, how do you explain that kind of a deal? I kind of feel bad for him, and I don't because I don't need you losing games, dude. But how do you explain something like that when you've just got an amazing leg, but for whatever reason, you can't be consistent down the middle?
Some guys with big legs. I was a big leg guy, and I always, every kick I just tried. I mean, I swung for the fences, and I wanted to put it over that net. And and another thing that we bring Caleb back. What I try to tell him is from 50 and in, or in his case from 40 and in. It's a nice and easy, just a repetition, nice swing, and everything's going to go. Doesn't have to go over the net or hit the track in the background. Doesn't have to. As long as it's down the middle and through those yellow posts, you get the points. So I think a guy like Anders, he's got a big leg. So everything when you swing hard, naturally you turn. So everything's going left, like you said. He pulls it left. But now he's starting to slow his swing down a little bit, and he's on a team now, and he's doing great. I mean, every kick is nice and high, right down the middle. I think being a rookie coming in kind of, jolted his nerves a little bit. Now he's past all that, and he's going to be great.
Who is Carlson? I know he's got a twin brother, I believe, with the Raiders.
Yeah, Raiders, Daniel Carlson. He's been fantastic since he came in too.
Yeah, he's never had that issue like his brother. And I actually think his brother Anders' leg is bigger.
Yeah,
but it's all about situational kicks as well. It's like, how much pressure is on you right now at this portion of the game? Is it the end of the game? Is the weather affecting you? And it just takes time to get over that. How many pressure kicks have you been a part of as a field goal kicker yourself in the pros?
I've been through a lot of pressure kicks. I mean, every kick is a pressured kick, right? You don't want to miss. There's always, as soon as you miss one, or you don't have you have a okay game, there's always somebody knocking on the door calling like, hey, he missed one. Is there room? Are you guys looking for people? So there's always somebody behind you trying to come in and take your job. So every kick is pressured. I hit a few longer ones. I actually hold the record in the UFL at 59 yards. In arena football, I made a 57, which was on the goal line, on our goal line going in this way. That's second longest of all time. I think those kicks were the most pressured for me because when you're in a lower league, you're working to get to that next level. I made to the UFL, all of a sudden I'm working to get to the NFL, right? So, and then I had a practice with the 49ers where they threw me in there in the stadium, and Coach Harbaugh said, "You're the guy today. All the field goals are on you." And I mean, talk about pressure. It was all the season ticket holders were there, and Harbaugh gets on the mic and tells them, "Everyone yell, let's rattle this kid." And I went 8 for 8 that day. I absolutely loved the pressured situations. I wanted them. I really did. I wanted them because that shows who you are. If you could thrive in those pressure situations, they'll take a chance on you anytime. And I loved it.
So correct me on this, but it was you were on the Super Bowl 48 team?
Was it 48? It was in 2012. I signed with them in 2010 when Mike Singletary was the coach out there.
Okay.
He told me, he said, after the season, we sat down, he signed me to a 2-year deal for 2010, 11 and 12. And he told me, "You're my guy. Still stay healthy. Next season, you're my guy." In the offseason, he loses his job. And in comes John Harbaugh. And he brought in David Akers with him, who's a Hall of Fame kicker. I competed. We went at it. I did very well. I did well. And he just ultimately beat me out for the job. But I was behind David Akers, in 2011 and 12. And I'll tell you right now, he took the spot, but great guy, taught me along the way. You think somebody like that, you got somebody on your heels, you don't really want to, teach him the ways, but he was awesome. I still talk to Dave actually, to this day. Great guy, great friend.
David Akers, a very good kicker in the
man.
NFL, and most rosters carry 2 kickers.
No, actually, they don't. They if they do have a kicker, you'll be on practice squad. So I was on practice squad. I practiced with the team every day, and then when game day came, I was there on the sideline. And if something happened to Dave, I would be in the next week. But he had, of course, in 2011 and 12, he had the best seasons of his career. And then after 12, they let me go, and I went to the Raiders and Dolphins and back to arena and that's when you start pinballing around and question if you want to do it anymore. That's where I was
Yeah.
at.
How would you compare kickers in this day and age to your era,
Uh,
NFL, and how would you compare them?
that's a great question because these kickers nowadays, when they line up for a 60-yarder, they're just like, okay, 60-yard field goal, we'll be right back. Back in my day when, in 2010, if you made a 60 plus, it was holy cow, he made it. Now it's almost routine. The leg strength out there, they're getting insane. When I played in the minor leagues, I actually hold the world record for a 68-yard field goal in a game, and I feel like that record is going to fall soon to one of these NFL guys because these leg strengthers they're getting it's getting crazy. It is. The 70-yarder is probably coming soon.
Well, I think there was a kicker last year in the UFL, or what's this, the USFL, and I guess the other league is the UFL. I want to say it was the UFL, and the young man kicked a 67-yarder, maybe a 68-yarder, and I think one of the NFL teams picked him up. I don't know if he even got picked up because I haven't.
Yeah,
Do you know who
it
I'm
was
talking about?
actually, yeah, I do. His name was Jake Bates.
Okay.
He made a 64-yarder at the gun to win the game for the Detroit team there, and the
Yeah.
Lions picked him up, and he's actually having a really good year with the Lions. He's good. He's very good. He's got a good leg, very accurate. Former soccer player, just like
Okay.
the Cowboys kid. I feel like all the big legs are those soccer guys that are trying to kick field goals now.
So you do get the sense that eventually you're going to see a 70-yard kick in a game. I mean, these guys right now, as you accurately stated, in the NFL are routinely knocking down 54, 56 yarders like no brainer. Like, yeah, of course I'm kicking from here. Whereas 10, 15 years ago,
Yeah.
you had to pause a minute and probably punt.
Yeah.
So now you got guys, there's this no-brainer. Yeah, we're going to take a shot at this. And you just look at how much stronger the legs are. And I guess it's just a matter of, do you think is the training better? These kids are just big as heck now. I mean,
They
across
are.
the board.
They are. And a couple of weeks ago, the Commanders lined up for a 68-yard field goal with no time left, 1 second left, and the announcer said this would beat the NFL record and tie the world record, which was mine off the ground in 2009. He said this would tie the world record. He kicked it. I'm sweating. I never want a kicker to miss, but I'm like, I just want my record to stand. And it literally fell a yard short, right down the middle, a yard short. And he was in a dome. There's no
Okay.
wind involved.
Wow. Perfect.
One of these
Condition.
guys get a little bit of a wind at their back, they're going to crank out a 70-yard field goal. It'll happen. I know it will.
Yeah. Yeah. Now we were talking about my nephew Caleb being a freshman at John Carroll High School and sharing the starting kicking duties with the junior, but he had some games where he was able to kick. And I I want to ask you, what is the average kick in your mind for a high school kicker who's trying to go to college and he wants to get a scholarship to a Power Five school? I mean, where should a young man be kicking upon his graduation from high school to get that scholarship?
I would say if you're consistent from 50 and in high school, and your numbers show that you're 21 of 22 from 50 and
Yeah,
in, where they can
yeah,
I mean, how many times are there? All right, 57-yarder, go ahead and kick it. It's like when you need those 43, 44-yarders, the 30-yarders. If you can be consistent from 50 and in, I feel like you can go anywhere you want. If you do have a few longer than 50 on your resume, um, you hit a 55, but you're consistent from 50 and in, and your kickoffs, are deep. I feel like you can go anywhere you want. Especially, man, I always preach this. Especially if you're just a good student, a good respectable man, that it goes so far. So if I can get him, and we will, because he's already very consistent. He'll be consistent from 50 and in. He'll hit some long ones, and his grades are there. He's very respectful. I have no doubt Caleb will go very far. He's only a freshman, and the kid in front of him is pretty good, but he's a junior. So I always tell Caleb, imagine you in 2 years. You're going to be, you're going to be booting him, man. And I just love it. Every point I have for him, he looks me in my eyes and he really soaks in what I'm telling him. Very coachable kid. A plus, A plus.
Yeah. He's definitely A plus, and that we're talking about. The young high school kicker going into college. We got the CFP coming up here. I think it starts this weekend, if not next. Do you have a favorite in the playoff?
I was talking to my friend the other day about this, and I feel like this is the one season in recent memory that there's really no clear cut where you could just say, man, this is the team, like the Alabama from a few years back. It's just like, oh, here we go, Alabama or Georgia. I like every team in it. I do. Flip a coin and place your bets. Really, all the teams are great. I can't even give you a favorite, man. I can't. Which I love. As a fan, I love that.
I agree with you. I don't. This is the one year where you can't. Obviously Oregon's number one, and right. They've survived the test. I think they're undefeated. I don't think they've been beaten, but
I think they lost one.
They lost one game. Okay, so they are a beatable team. I think Boise State played them to within 3 points.
Boise's
but you can't call it. There's so many good teams in the playoff. Yeah. Georgia is in the playoff. Alabama could have been in the playoff, but Miami could have been in the playoff.
Yeah.
But you just look at teams like Ohio State with a lot to prove. Tennessee's very good. Texas is very good. Clemson's very good and dangerous. Yeah. They found a way to sneak in there, and I think that we're talking about field goal kicking. I think these games are going to come down to some kicks.
Yeah. See, again, that's that pressure situation. Imagine the pressure on that, right? You're in the playoff there, and all of a sudden you're down by 2. I think it's a little less pressure when the game is tied, and it's like, all right, if I miss, at least we still get to go to overtime. When you're down by 2 or 1 and you have to make it or else your team is cooked, you're done, I think that's probably the biggest pressure for a kicker. And if you can knock that through, NFL teams are going to say, okay, this is our guy.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking with Fabrizio Scaccia, former professional Placekicker and also in the NFL with the San Francisco 49ers on the Maurice Brown Comedy Show, NFL edition on bogradio.fm. Let's talk about the 49ers, a team that you had an opportunity to play for in 2012. You look at what happened last night on Thursday Night Football. We have Devondre Campbell refused to go in the game.
Yeah.
And I know that he was called in from Green Bay. My team, we didn't need him anymore. The 49ers picked him up because they had injuries. The 49ers have been banged up all over the place all year.
Everywhere.
And so one of the linebackers, Greenlaw, I believe it is, who actually injured himself running onto the field of the Super Bowl, which is weird as heck.
Yeah.
But he's healthy now, and he's a dog.
He is.
And so Devondre lost his position. Obviously, hey, Greenlaw's back. This is our guy, Devondre. Just be ready. And apparently, he couldn't get over that.
Yeah,
they asked him to go in the game. You lose. I think Greenlaw and another linebacker will go down, and he says, "I'm not going in." How often does stuff like that happen from your experience on the field?
Not often, especially up in that level. I've seen it in the Arena League. I didn't see it in the UFL at all. You start climbing up the ladder. And in the NFL, I actually saw it once before when I was on that 2010 team with Singletary and Vernon Davis, him and Vernon Davis had a couple of words on the sideline. Remember that? Yep.
I remember that.
Yep. He sent them off and suspended them. But I'll tell you this, Vernon will tell you this, it literally changed him. He understood after that point, like, you got to watch, this is the NFL. It's the NFL. This is the high of the high. You have to, it's the respect, I always go back to it, respect. And Vernon lost his head a little bit. And I think when Coach Singletary suspended him, he came back, and I'll tell you, he came back a new man. He came back and performed, and he actually thanked Mike Singletary many times for suspending him. Yeah.
Yes.
But as far as the linebacker goes, that's exactly, everyone's asking on ESPN, I wonder what happened. That's exactly what happened. He was starting all year because Greenlaw was out, and Greenlaw came back, got his position back, which we just said he's a dog. He deserves his position. So they, demoted him back to the bench and just said, stay ready. And Greenlaw, the third quarter, he said he's starting to feel it again in his leg. So I want to shut it down. So they tell him to go back in. He says, no, I'm not. Now you need me. Now you want me. I'm out of here. And he walked off. The sense of professionalism should come in. And he, as upset as you are, you got to understand it's the NFL. It's the best man up. If not, it's the next man up. And he was the next man up, and he walked away, and he'll never play again for the 49ers. I don't think he will. He lost all respect from his teammates and his coaches and stuff. And I don't know if he'll play again in the NFL after that. You can't walk off on your team like that.
Quite frankly and honestly, Fabrizio, short of him coming clean, in front of his teammates and publicly, acknowledging the fact that, hey, you know what I did was wrong. He'll never play in the league again.
Yeah,
because you have the same. He won't play. And short of him doing that, he won't play in the league again, because you got to think about the message that young people are getting from that. That's a little league move that he made.
Right.
Okay, that's what kids do on the midget league level.
Yeah,
maybe junior high, you get mad, you take your pads off, and you go home or whatever. But you can't have that in the NFL. Kids are looking up to you. Charles Barkley said, "I am not a role model. As much as I love Charles, you don't get to make that decision. You are a role model."
Yeah, definitely. It was a bad look. It was a bad look for him to walk off, and then, like you said, man, I don't know. I feel like he wasn't very apologetic of it. I don't know what went on today behind the scenes, but I haven't seen anything. I've had the TV on. I haven't seen anything about him coming out and apologizing or whatnot. But yeah, it's I'm with you on that. I don't think he'll play again, which is a shame, because he's a great player, and for what I know, a great guy. So shame.
Well, here's the thing about Devondre, and I know, like I said, coming from my team, the Packers, a team I root for, I know that he was kind of the odd man out. He was a good linebacker, but when you go to another team and you act the way that he did, what I'm saying is he's not Vernon Davis,
right?
Like Vernon Davis might get a pass for doing something like that. Let's go sit down and talk about this, Vernon. Hey, what's going on in your nugget?
Sure.
And if I can get you to really come clean with me, fine. Devondre Campbell's not going to get that. He's going to have to voluntarily go to Kyle Shanahan and the front office in San Francisco, go in that locker room in front of his teammates and say, "Hey, man, my bad."
I think as a man and as a teammate, he should, and I think he will. But I just don't think. It doesn't matter what he does. I just don't think he'll play at least for the 49ers again. I think they're already set on letting him go. But as a man, stand up in front of your team. Hey, I did what I did. I apologize, and hopefully he can make amends with the rest of the league, I guess. Tough.
Yeah, I hope he can, because it's a career killer.
Right.
And, I just it's a lot of money. I think he's only signed a 1-year deal, and for him to
Yeah,
walk
and
off,
you don't want that for anyone, especially these guys. They played their whole life, worked their whole lives for this, and to throw it away over something, something petty like that. I mean, Greenlaw he's one of the best. Our linebacker core, him and Fred Warner, they're amazing linebackers. So when he came back, he should have known. Okay, it's your spot, but I'm behind you. If you need me to come in, I'll come in, and just know your role, man. Know your role.
just know your role. I mean, if you were all that, you'd still be in Green Bay. I'm going to leave him
Yeah.
alone, Fabrizio. So Aaron Rodgers comes to mind when you think about current controversies. Also played with the Packers, now he's with the Jets, and he came in, and the Jets assumed that, as did everyone in the sports world, that the Jets would be at least Super Bowl contenders. But you've got a 41-year-old quarterback coming off an ACL tear, and expectations have to be realistically diminished. I know it's Aaron Rodgers, but I think expectations have to be realistically diminished. He's never been a Tom Brady. Both great, but Tom Brady's like different.
Yes.
I mean, like literally a different dude.
Right.
And so I think when you look at what Aaron Rodgers is doing right now, 3-10, worse than Zach Wilson when he was there.
Yeah.
Zach Wilson and Mike White did better than what Aaron and Sam Darnold, for that matter.
Right.
Do you think it's fair that Aaron Rodgers is receiving the bulk of the blame for the Jets' troubles?
No, I don't. I don't think it's fair. When you talk about GOATs, of the league, he definitely deserves his name to be mentioned. He's done great things. Look at their roster. Look at their team. They just haven't gelled. Their running back is fantastic. Their receiving core is amazing. We got Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson there. I think when Rodgers steps back and slings it, he looks good. I think he's a little timid back there in the pocket because of what happened to him. So I would say yes and no. I don't want to say, oh, it's Aaron Rodgers. There's no excuse to be 3-10. He's one of the greatest to do it. He can still sling it. He really can. I wish they were doing better because I really love Aaron Rodgers. But I wouldn't pin it on him. No, there's a lot going on in New York. A lot of stuff behind the scenes people don't know.
There's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that people don't know. And, I hated to see him leave Green Bay. But I mean, I think it was clearly a situation where it was time to move on to the new guy, next man up, Jordan Love. He's young. He's been sitting there for 3-4 years.
Oh, yeah.
He's got all the tools, and it was just kind of time to the transition from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers could have gone smoother. It didn't. And the transition from Rodgers to Love should have gone smoother, and it didn't. Yep. You look at like the last 30 years, the Packers have only had 3 quarterbacks, which is utterly amazing.
Wow.
But you just look at a guy like Aaron Rodgers. We're talking about age. And it doesn't matter what position you play. Age catches everybody. And I think the hardest thing for a top flight athlete to accept is the passage of time and age. You accepting the fact that, hey, I can't run out of the pocket and get 9 yards, get to the stick and get the first down like I did 10 years ago. I can't juke and jive and buy time and throw on the run, throw a rope 50 yards downfield like I did 10 years ago. And I think that's the hardest part for Aaron Rodgers, is coming to terms with the fact that I'm not that guy anymore. I mean, but at the same time, the Jets are just rotten, dude. And I hate to I don't like seeing Rodgers get all the blame. It's not all his fault.
Yeah. He definitely doesn't deserve it. Like last game, he threw for over 300, had a great game. I mean, so it's there, it's in there, right? It's just a matter of being consistent and letting it fly, man, and staying in the pocket strong. When the pocket collapses on him, like you said, he used to buy time. He can't do that now. What does he do? He just throws it away or overthrows somebody just to get the ball out of the pocket. All of a sudden, you're 3rd and 10 every series, and I mean, it's hard to win like that.
It's very difficult to win like that. We're talking to Fabrizio Scaccia, former NFL Placekicker, on the Maurice Brown Comedy Show on bogradio.fm. So we're winding it down. We got about 4 weeks left in the NFL, and the Detroit Lions, 12-1. You got Dan Campbell, goes for it like ad infinitum. It's like a Madden game. It's like watching the Lions is like watching Madden. Doesn't matter what fourth and whatever, he's going for it. Can Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions sustain this approach to football, going for it on fourth down, no matter where you are on the field? Can this sustain itself?
They say, man, if it's not broken, why fix it, right? They have a crazy line. Their running backs are unbelievable. Hand it to them, get a yard or two, and then you have the option to pull it and throw it to St. Brown or Jamison Williams. They're stacked, just full of studs. And I love Dan Campbell's mentality, man. We're going to go for it. And if they don't get it, he's the one who stands up and says, I wanted to go for it. And guess what? Next time, I'm going for it again. The players react to that type of coach. He's a player's coach. Every player wants to. You ever see on fourth downs, all these guys, they stay on the field and they're looking over like, can we go for it? Can we? And I punt it away or kick the field goal. Every player wants to go for it on fourth down. And that's why when Dan Campbell says, yeah, let's go. We got 4. Everyone's got 3 downs. We got 4. Guys react to that. They love playing for them. And all these guys, they're playing for each other. I love what's going on in Detroit right now.
You know what? And I'm just going to have to be honest with you. I mean, they are a division rival in the NFC North. And, it's hard to give them the credit. But at the same time, it is what it is. Your record tells you who you are.
Right.
And they have gambled all year, going back to last year, and they're really good. The Lions are really, really good. I got another team I'd like to ask you about in the Philadelphia Eagles, who are 11-2, and last year around about this time they had a huge collapse. And you're a former pro ball player. You know what happens in locker rooms and so forth and so on. And as a fan, you're watching them kind of like go into the dumps last year and lose their first playoff game as they lost their last 5. And you knew something was going on in the locker room. We didn't know exactly what it was. Nobody called it out or talked about it publicly, but we all, with our eyes, saw something's wrong with that team. So here we are. Last week, the Eagles are playing the Panthers, and A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts get into it on the sideline.
Yep.
Okay, and it comes out that these two are like beefing, and they've been beefing for a while. And the thing I don't understand is how in the world can you be upset after winning? You guys won, and yet you're still angry. How often do these kinds of things happen in pro sports?
Well, A.J. Brown, he's one of the studs of the league, and he's got the ego, rightly so, right? The guy's a stud. He's one of the best in the league. He wants his catches. He wants his yards. I mean, obviously they won. He's not mad that they won, but he wants the ball a little bit, and they're feeding Saquon right now. You feed the hot hand. Barkley's having a record-breaking season. Jalen's not throwing it too well right now. And A.J. Brown, last time these two beefed, I'll tell you this. Last time they got into it, A.J. Brown went out the next game and had like 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. So for all my fantasy football guys out there, you look for A.J. Brown this week for a big week. They'll be fine out in Philly.
Well, Philadelphia has a big game this weekend, arguably the biggest game of the NFL. They take on the Steelers, and then you got Buffalo and the Lions, another big one. But this one right here, to me, because I'll be honest with you, I'm looking at Philadelphia, and I'm like, not again. I mean, I'm not an Eagle fan, but I'm like, wow, guys, are you going to let this happen again? And then you wonder how culpable is Nick Sirianni as the head coach of that team in getting this thing squashed. Because at some point, in my opinion, as a coach, you have to intervene and make some tough decisions. What's your opinion about that?
Oh, well, last season, towards the end of the season, Sirianni lost the locker room a little bit. And
Yeah.
that's what happened to the Eagles. They spiraled, and I go back to the Dan Campbell thing. It goes a long way when you have the team, like, the camaraderie of the team and the coaches. It goes such a long way. He lost that team at the end of the season, and I feel like in the beginning of the season it was the same way, just a little bit, barking at fans and stuff like that. Then they righted the ship, right? Everyone was loving them. The team's kumbaya, everything's great. Now here we are again. It's starting to go down. You got a lot of egos in that locker room. It's definitely up to Sirianni to step in and say, "Hey, listen, we're 11-2. We have a serious push. I picked the Eagles to win the Super Bowl in one of my. I think they're a phenomenal team. They check every box in every position. It's just a matter of, see, now the Lions and the Eagles, the camaraderie of the team, and we love our coach. And all of a sudden, there's bickering on this side. If they can right the ship like the Lions have it on that side, oh my gosh, the Eagles, they're going to be so hard to stop. The way Jalen Hurts runs it, throws it, their running back, their receivers, their defense. What a great team. But coach, pull them together.
Well, here's the real issue with Philadelphia in regards to Jalen Hurts. He's not having a good year throwing the ball.
No.
And Saquon Barkley is literally their saving grace. Saquon Barkley is literally carrying the Eagles.
Absolutely.
And so when you look at A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Jalen Hurts, I mean, I think right now they have to be very careful. Mr. Bourbon, you're a Bengal fan. You know what? Be nice to have defense this year. You know what? I feel sorry for the Bengals because Joe Burrow is as good as any quarterback in the NFL. If you look at his numbers, he might be the best quarterback in the NFL, and they can't win a ball game because they can't stop anybody.
Unbelievable.
But I tell you this, if they sneak into the playoffs, Buffalo, Kansas City, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, they're going to be highly upset if the Bengals and Joe Burrow walk into their stadium for a first-round game.
I wholeheartly agree. I cannot believe what their record is right now. As crazy as that offense is.
Yeah.
What are they? 5-8?
They're 5-8.
5-8.
Yeah.
And they're one of the number one offenses. I mean, Burrow to Chase is crazy right now, and it's not going to stop. They're going to keep going. That defense, man, is just
it's rotten.
You have to put up 50 plus every week, and then you're still losing. It's crazy.
Listen, I'm going to be totally honest with you. I'm looking at Zach Taylor, the head coach of the Bengals, and I'm thinking, look here, dude. I don't know if you and your DC hang out, and go to Thanksgiving Thanksgiving his house and Christmas your house, dude. If he can't get the job done, you're going to have to make a hard decision. I think Zach Taylor's a good coach, but you're going to have to get that defense shored up, or you're wasting T. Higgins, you're wasting Jamar Chase, and you're wasting Joe Burrows. You're wasting their time.
Agreed.
And so, Mr. Bourbon, I got to tell you, listen, you guys have been watching Hard Knocks in season of the AFC North. Great content. I have not. How about you, Fabrizio?
I have not. I saw it on the TV, and I will get to it. I love all those shows.
So the last thing I would say regarding the playoffs as the one team that no one's really talking about. We talked about the Eagles. We talked about the Detroit Lions. We talked about Green Bay. Green Bay's having a game. But not a lot of people are talking about the Vikings. And the Vikings are 11-2. And Sam Darnold, who has a jaded past, is arguably in the MVP conversation. What do you think about Minnesota?
Sam Darnold, an ex-Niner, was treated unfairly out there. Was treated unfairly in New York, right? All of a sudden, he goes to Minnesota, and he is literally tearing it up.
Yeah.
Love Minnesota. They have your boy Aaron Jones now, right? He's playing well. Justin Jefferson is insane. Addison is great. Hawkinson's back. That defense is great. I love Minnesota. I do, and I love what Sam Darnold is doing. Very happy for him.
I think that, as a Packer fan, we're just in huge trouble. We got to go to Seattle on Sunday, and that's just going to be a tough game. And then you're surrounded by the Lions and the Vikings. It's a lot of things that have to be done there. And then, of course, there's Philadelphia. And I'm with you that the Eagles have got to know, not this year.
Yeah.
Guys, not this year.
Cut it out. Let's go win a Super Bowl.
So, you just look at it. So, Mr. Burba says Sam Darnold, comeback player of the year. Maybe not. Not sure what he would be coming back from, but a great season. Well, you got J.J. McCarthy, who's sitting their number one draft pick.
He's waiting.
Who's coming back. Yeah. Okay. And he looked great before he got injured.
He did.
And then you go, well, should we sign? The Vikings are going to have some questions to answer.
That's a good problem to have, right? Hey,
it's a good
both
problem.
of our quarterbacks are great. What do we do? That's a good problem to have.
It's a good problem to have. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening and watching the Maurice Brown Comedy Show on bogradio.fm, talking with former NFL Placekicker Fabrizio Scaccia. And before we get out of here, we're talking about my nephew, Caleb Lopez, who's a field goal kicker in Fort Pierce, Florida, as a freshman. What advice can you leave with young kickers out there that really want to make it to the NFL, get that scholarship, as we were talking about? What advice can you leave with young kickers out there?
There's a couple things I learned along the way. I mean, obviously, you have to have the ability, to do it. But when I was a senior in high school, everyone had a chance to go up and speak in front of the team. And one of my good buddies went up there and he said, I'm gonna leave you guys with this as we graduate. And he wrote on the board, he put, yes, sir, no, sir. And he said, if you stick to these words, and no matter what you're doing, who you're talking to, be a yes, sir, no, sir kind of guy, it'll take you to the moon. And I attest to that. Yes, sir, no, sir, respect everybody around you. It goes such a long way. And grades, get your head in the books, get your education, get your grades. I don't care if you're making 70-yard field goals. If the grades aren't there, no colleges are going to look at you. They're not going to take you. And to be honest, they can't. You have to have the grades, and you have to have the mindset for it. Get mentally sharp and hit the books. And respect everyone around you. That's it. It'll take you a long way. Yes, sir, no, sir.
Absolutely, my friend. Absolutely. Great advice. And for fans and viewers out there that may want to get in contact with you, as I said, I mean, you've been training my nephew, Caleb, and viewers out there may, want to get in contact with you. How could they follow you on social media or contact you by website?
Well, I'm on Facebook, just my name, Fabrizio Scaccia, and also on Instagram. If you just you can DM me there, or a quick email is my last name, SCACCIA, the number 11 at yahoo.com. Shoot me an email, shoot me a message. We'll communicate. I'll give you my number. We'll get on a call and chop it up, and we'll go from there.
And one more question I wanted to ask you before we get out of here as well. I didn't get an opportunity to ask because I've been running my mouth incessantly. But I wanted to ask you about what rounds do field goal kickers normally get drafted in?
The later rounds, five and on. I remember Sebastian Janikowski. I think he was the highest drafted kicker. He got drafted in the first round.
He was the first round pick for the Raiders.
Draft pick. So if you're drafted in anything before the fifth round, then you tore it up in college and you deserve to be drafted that high. But typically the fifth and on is where they start picking up kickers and punters and stuff.
Yeah. And I feel bad for Janikowski because he was on a rotten Raider team and he was good.
Yeah,
I mean, Janikowski was killing it, dude.
He had the strongest leg I think I've ever seen, ever.
Yeah,
I kicked with him in person. Cannon.
Man, oh man, that guy! I feel so bad for him because all those Raider teams he was on were pretty bad,
very bad.
I think it was Al Davis that drafted him. But that being said, I just wondered. Usually around the fifth round.
Fifth and on. Yeah, these teams they want to grab all the receivers, and I'll tell you, man, as a kicker, you're at the bottom of the totem pole. It's like, hey, kicker, carry my bags. All right, like they're. But when they need you at the end to perform to win the game, they're hugging on you. So it's bittersweet.
Thoughts on more teams going after players like the Cowboys kicker. I think his name is Justin Aubrey. The guy's awesome.
Brandon Aubrey,
former soccer player, I think. What do you think about that one?
Yeah, Aubrey. He didn't play football in college. He was a soccer guy. He got drafted into the MLS. He went to a tryout. Him and his wife were watching a football game, and one of the kickers missed, and she goes, "I think you can do this. Why don't you go to a tryout?" He went to a USFL tryout.
Yeah.
He won the spot, killed it in the USFL, signed with the Cowboys, and the rest is history. That kid is incredible. Absolutely incredible.
He's only got one problem, Fabrizio.
What's that?
He plays for the Cowboys.
Uh-oh.
Anyway, look, dude, on that, he's a great kicker. On that note, we're going to get out of here talking with former NFL place kicker Fabrizio Scaccia on the Maurice Brown Comedy Show on bogradio.fm. If you're coming in at the very end of this conversation and you're like, daggone it, I missed it, it's okay, because you can listen to this entire interview on Spotify in its entirety starting tomorrow. And also, if you have enjoyed the conversation, well, like it and share it. And subscribe to the Maurice Brown Comedy Channel on YouTube. And also, every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern, you can listen to the Maurice Brown Comedy Show on bogradio.fm, and every Sunday night on KCHFTV11.org in Albuquerque, New Mexico at 9 p.m. Mountain. You guessed it, the Maurice Brown Comedy Show. So we're going to step out of here on that. Fabrizio Scaccia, former NFL place kicker on the Maurice Brown Comedy Show. Fabrizio, thank you for stopping by and chatting it up with us. It's been a great conversation, and may the peace of Christ be with you and your family. God bless you.
Thank you for having me, and anytime you want to have me on, you let me know. I'll be right here with you, and God bless you as well. Thank you so much.
Amen, brother. Amen.